I'm glad we used that logo for something.
Competition starting to get thick, it's the click, so I hope you watch your A game. Amen, no rain from the track when we unite and spit. This isn't A game, better bring your A game. Competition starting to get thick, it's the click, so I hope you watch your A game. Amen, no rain from the track when we.
Hey now, it's the Mike and JD show, and I'm your host, Mike Gilbert, and I'm joined as always by JD by God Oliva. How you doing, JD?
It's Friday night. I hung out with the family. We had a half day at school. I had no football game. Got in a wedding tomorrow. Gonna get up, watch the kid play soccer. I'm in a great mood. I'm exhausted, but I'm in a great mood.
Yeah, man, I'm in a great mood too. So yeah, as you guys have noticed, we are not on Thursday tonight. We're on Friday this week. I had to push it back a day because yesterday was my daughter's 5th birthday. Thank you. We actually had her party this past Saturday, and so I was assuming that maybe yesterday would have been a normal day. We had no plans. And but at the last minute, we decided that we would actually take my daughter out to do something after I got off of work. And so the original plan was to do ice cream, and we ended up on her way home from school, they drove past the bowling alley, and so my daughter was like, "I want to go bowling." I'm like, I've never heard her say that before. So I was like, so we took her bowling, and it was a lot of fun.
If the kid express interest, especially when it comes to their birthday, you got to do it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, especially because I think the original idea was to go to downtown Honolulu at rush hour.
Ooh.
Not a good thing to do.
I
Traffic is brutal, man. Yeah, traffic is brutal out here.
Honolulu traffic. I've never done that before.
Dude,
I did. I must have at one point, but I don't, because I've been in Honolulu. I just don't remember what traffic there was like. So I'll take your word for it.
There's only 2 main highways that go in that kind of go up and down like our side of Oahu, and during rush hour, it gets really congested really badly.
Yeah. The worst traffic. I went to Orlando this year. I think I told you about that. The Atlanta traffic was just god fucking awful. The Atlanta traffic was just god awful. Sorry, that went over like a lead balloon. So
yeah, sorry. I thought there was gonna be follow-up. My
no follow-up.
Yeah,
just bad traffic.
Yeah, I've never been to either city, other than I've been to the Atlanta airport several times, but I've never actually been to the city of Atlanta. So I just have to take your word for that.
It's fine. It's a city.
Yeah. But hey, man, dude, so we talked earlier this week. I think it was on Tuesday, and you texted me. You were like, what the hell are we going to talk about this week? And I was like, dude, I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah, the God said, here's a bunch of stuff. Take a day. We'll throw more at you, actually.
Yeah. Well, the CM Punk stuff had kind of dominated our show for a long time.
Yeah.
And now that he's gone, it's been kind of tough to come up with things to talk about. But, because we took an extra day, we had the Observer. So thank you, Dave, for helping to get some notes for our show. And my cousin Joe, Stat Nerd Joe, actually hooked me up with some stuff that we're going to talk about today about AEW's attendance. Yeah, pretty tough. But I want to start the show off with I think the biggest story, and one of the biggest stories in the history of wrestling. Well, we already know that the WWE and the UFC were merging. Well, it became official earlier this week that WWE and the UFC have merged. They are now under one company called TKO, with Ari Emanuel as kind of the head honcho of that company. There's a new command structure. Vince McMahon is no longer the top dog. He has a boss to answer to. Not that he'll ever answer to him, but he does have a boss to answer to. I think Ari will very likely treat Vince much like he treats Dana White. Mm-hmm. And Dana White does damn near whatever he wants. Good and bad. He kind of gets away with a lot. So I don't really see Vince asking Ari for permission, but with a big merger like this, and this happens with every major company ever. It happened to my wife's company. They kind of did a hostile takeover of the company that she worked for. And then because they had so many duplicate employees now, whenever they merged, they just started cutting a large portion of the workforce, and a lot of people had no job, man. And that kind of happened today. I think we saw over 100 office and personnel cuts. No talent, but office personnel.
My wife has been through 2 mergers and acquisitions, we'll call them, mergers and executions, if you will. She survived both of them. So she actually has been technically working for the same company for almost 20 years now, but it's gone under like 4 or 5 different like major regime changes. So this happens. I mean, like realistically, those people were redundant because Endeavor, right? Because Endeavor, they spun like this TKO spun off of Endeavor, right?
Yeah.
So all these people that Endeavor had employed previously outranked the people that were in WWE, and like they're gone now. And I don't know, it sucks, but corporate America, man, it's what it is.
Yeah, and I was like preparing for it, and I know people thought I was being pretty insensitive, but
Well,
I could see on yeah, I could see on Twitter, like I knew it was coming, where Sean Ross Sapp or PW Insider would report that some person that you've never heard of in a department you never knew existed got released, and then there's people on Twitter crying outrage, saying, "Oh, what maybe AEW should hire this person. They're great at their job." I'm like, brother, you don't even know what they did. Like,
right.
you don't even know what the name, like what that section even does over there.
No, and like every time someone gets released from WWE, there's a bunch of people going, "Oh, Tony needs to hire this person," and it's like,
Yeah,
does he really? I mean, like if WWE didn't feel like they were necessary anymore, does the other company have to bring them in? And just because you work for the one wrestling company doesn't necessarily mean you got to work for the other. Like there are other people who have had other jobs that can work in wrestling, right? Wrestling isn't
yeah.
that much of a new thing. Like it's just there's a lot of weird takes going around. Like it's like I said, sucks to lose your job. In our Voices of Wrestling Slack group, Mike Spears, he of the Open the Voice Gate podcast, best podcast for Dragon Gate if you like Dragon Gate stuff.
Is that where they talk about a lot of MLW stars like Shin Skywalker?
I hate your guts with the white hot fire of 1,000 suns. Go to the furthest depths of hell. I know there's a lot of volcanoes by you, so jump in one.
Yeah.
As I was saying, Mike made a good point. The only people worth bringing, and I like this actually, the only people who might be worth bringing in are their PR people, because let's
Yeah.
be real, WWE PR freaking rules. They do an
Tremendous, yeah.
amazing job. They are so good. And Vince has had decades of experience at training people to eat out of his hands, and the mainstream fought him for decades. But I mean, he waited them all out to the point now where the lapdogs can't wait to just eat off Vince's tit. Oh, what do we got? Oh, yeah, Vince McMahon. Blah, 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 blah. But that's from the PR department. They're awesome. And these are the only people I could say, hey, maybe there's something to there. So credit to Iron Mike Spears. This is a good suggestion.
Yeah, no, I do think that's a great suggestion. And if they had some people in talent relations, maybe they could bring those folks over, because there's clearly still a problem over there in AEW. Maybe, I don't know, maybe the one guy that had the biggest issue with that department is now gone. But there were some rumblings before all this, the drama that had happened earlier this year and late last year. There was like some rumblings and some communication issues. So,
yes,
but a lot of the office people that got let go from the WWE, those aren't wrestling people. Like those are like, marketing and human resources. Like those are just normal folks that just like applied for the job through LinkedIn and got hired based off of their resume. They're basically civilians, and they're not like wrestling people.
And here's the thing too, is like, I don't think any of these people are surprised that it was coming. Right? These are smart people. They could see the writing on the wall. We've been talking about this for months. We all saw what Endeavor did when they bought UFC. What was that, about 6 years ago? 6, 7 years ago?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. Like we saw the culling that happened over there. And by the way, it's probably not done. Like I know Nick Hausman reported that there's going to be some talent releases. And I think WWE decided, or TKO decided, it's funny, it was Titan forever. And then it was WWE, or it was WWFE, and then it was WWE. Now, whatever. TKO decided to maybe wait on some of these talent releases. They're coming because this is a company that, one, it's a public company, so they have to show they have to show that if they have to show growth, and the easiest way to show growth is to just fire a bunch of people, right? Then you say you're saving money. So they're going to do that. There's way too many. Like we joke about Tony Khan hoarding talent. Do you know how many people are in that performance center? They can't fill all. There's too many people. They don't all have lockers there.
Yeah.
They don't all have lockers. Like you have to wait till you can get a locker. Do you really need that many people hanging out in the performance center, flipping tires and blowing their ACLs, overtraining?
Yeah. Getting good medical care, I'm sure.
Oh, great medical care.
Yeah.
What do you think the rate is of injury in the PC? Because there always seems to be like and just like not owies, but like massive injuries. like
If
torn
you're like
Achilles, blown ACLs, like major, major injuries.
the best job security in the world is being like a WWE team physician and surgeon. You know what I mean? Or like, just like it is like if you're an NFL team doctor,
A
like
trainer.
you're set because those brothers are always hurt. You're set for life if you got one of those gigs, man.
For sure. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, I fully expect there to be a culling. And if it's any, we were discussing with one of our buddies. You and I both thought that some of the higher priced mid card talent
Hmm.
could see it because this is what happened in UFC, right? This is what they've done for a while now. Is when
Yeah.
there's higher priced older guys, they become redundancy. And again, the entire concept behind the performance center is that we're training the next generation, and the next
Hmm.
generation doesn't get their shot if there's a bunch of 40-year-olds on the roster.
Well, it's true of football too, and it's
Mhm.
true of the UFC. Like as fighters get older and they get more and more TV time, they get more exposure, then they get more expensive, right?
Mhm.
And as their fighting ability starts to decline, their actual rate will go up because they're more popular and they're selling more tickets and more merch. So at that point, that's when the UFC would either cut them, or when their fight contract came up, they would just stop negotiating with them, and then all of a sudden Bellator and PFL would take them on. And there's a laundry list of fighters that had happened to. Fabricio Verdum, the former heavyweight champion, defeated Fedor, right, one of the greats ever.
Mhm.
Rory McDonald left straight from the UFC on a winning streak. He went over to Bellator, and then he ended up in PFL. Now I think he's retired. Benson Henderson, former lightweight champ, he was lightweight champ in UFC and the WEC lightweight champ. A really decent sized star there. Like I've seen him headline pretty decent sized events, right? But he's not that upper echelon Connor, John Jones, those type of guys. But he was like a pretty mid-level star making decent coin, and UFC's like, you know what, we can trade you in for a guy off of Cage Fury fighting championships. It's on a win streak. Get
Mhm.
them in there. If the guy's got a little bit of exposure and some good fighting ability, we can just push that guy. So they've done that time and time again, and that's where I could see where WWE will do some talent cuts. Some of them will be like through attrition, but there's other ones that are just like fat contracts of guys that are just not doing anything. Like if I were one of you, like if you're a 40-something tag team that was already cut before and went to Impact for a couple years and then went back on another fat contract, I would keep my cell phone off for a while. I would just show up and try to hide as much as you can, because I think you might be on the chopping block.
JTG had a great tweet yesterday. He said, "All right, here's the challenge: don't answer your phone.
Yeah.
Just they
Yeah.
can't fire if you don't answer your phone." Like,
And then just,
that's pretty good.
George Costanza just show up like you still
Just
work there.
just show up. Yeah, oh, hey, I didn't know anything was wrong. I mean, that's just the kind of thing, though. I mean, the difference with the UFC and WWE or pro wrestling in general is that it's hard to make stars, but UFC has done it right time and
Mhm.
time again. They keep making stars. They keep finding people. Pro wrestling might be a little bit harder, but the thing is too is like in pro wrestling, like usually sometimes people don't start getting good till they're in their early to mid 30s,
Mhm.
right? But by the time they're 40, there might be another guy in his early to mid 30s ready to go. And if you're in the mid card, what kind of value are you really bringing to them at the moment, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah, and I don't want to like fantasy book people getting fired, but I was just we were having a conversation about AJ Styles, right?
Mhm.
A legend, an all-time great,
Yep.
legendary TNA performer, and I would say he's a WWE legend. He's had a hell of a run there. He's been there since I think 2014.
16.
2000 was it 16?
16,
So
14, he leaves
yep.
Impact. 15, he goes to New Japan.
Okay. And then 16, he's at the Royal Rumble, him
Mhm.
and Shinsuke. Okay. Now he's, in his mid 40s, and I'm sure he's commanding a high dollar,
Mhm.
but he is never really the guy there. He is just a really good worker that people genuinely like. People come out. I think that guys like that might be in a little bit of trouble with this merger, because I don't really think they're bringing in a ton of dollars, but they're getting paid a lot. You know what I mean? And so you can replace a guy like that with somebody from the PC, elevate them, and just start to push them. Now you can say, "Oh, how can you replace an AJ Styles? He's one of the all-time greats." You're thinking of it like a wrestling fan.
Mhm.
You're not thinking of it like a bean counter, right? They
Mhm.
just see like what the contracts are versus what the revenue that they're bringing in, and and I don't know that it matches up. I'm going to go ahead and assume probably not with guys like that. I'm not saying him specifically, but guys of that ilk.
Well, there's a concept that got popular in baseball. It's that wins above replacement, right?
Yeah.
That war. So like you got a replacement level wrestler. How good are you as opposed to that replacement level wrestler? I'd say AJ is reasonably high on that, but at the same time, you're eating up a lot of money.
Yeah.
You can easily, like, I'm not saying you can easily replace AJ, but the thing about AJ is if AJ were to get cut, he would get money from Tony Khan tomorrow.
Oh, immediately. Yeah.
So I mean, like that's like the one guy I'd be like, yes, that guy would find a home in AEW tomorrow, right? There's a lot of other guys, maybe not, like Dolph Ziggler. Like, what's he done the last like 3-4 years over there, right? I know they did a thing with Braun, but he's been out of that, like in NXT, but he's out of that. And like he's my age. We're literally the same age. Our teams wrestled against each other in college. Fucking Kent State. And I would think that maybe his time has come. I know they like the Miz, but what are you getting with the Miz that you can't get with Grayson Waller? And that's Rich from the flagship show. He draws that comparison. He calls him replacement level Miz.
Yeah.
But what's the difference? Like with Waller, you've got a younger, better version of the Miz who just hasn't had those million opportunities that Mizanin has.
Yeah, well, I mean, The Miz is a celebrity wrestler, right? And Grayson Waller is them trying to create a celebrity wrestler. Miz was a celebrity before he came into wrestling, and he's just, been in there a long time, and he just fits well into that system. But the Miz's draw is that he's the Miz. Like, he goes on TV, he can get you on TV. I think you can easily replace him with Grayson Waller. He's just not famous yet, right? He talks about being a social media star. He doesn't have any followers yet. But you give him the Miz's spot, he might get there.
That's what I'm saying. Like, look at LA Knight. A year ago, he was still Max Dupree, right? And they were teasing the LA Knight thing. And this is a veteran work guy. We're the Impact guys. He's Eli Drake. He'll be Eli Drake to us forever.
Wait a minute. Hold on, JD. Are you sitting here and telling me that he was not created in NXT? That he wasn't just discovered at NXT, built up through the NXT system, and finally got his shot?
Yeah. Oh, I made a joke. Yeah. I didn't even mean to do that. Yeah, no, I'm telling you that exactly. No, that's the thing though, is like, so they gave that guy a shot and look what he did. Like, he's over. I don't think I've never thought he's a good wrestler, but in WWE, you don't have to be. More on that later.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we'll come back to that thought. So that's the thing is like, how are you going to get the replacement level Miz to become the new Miz if you don't give him the chance to become the new Miz? So I think if you got Grayson Waller under contract, what's the difference other than, a decimal point maybe between the Miz and Grayson Waller? Like, what is the Miz really doing for you that the Grayson Waller can't do?
Yeah, I mean, can you put the Grayson Waller in a reality show? I think so. Yeah. Will it do the same numbers? Probably not yet, but maybe if you give it time. But you're not going to have to pay Grayson Waller nearly as much as you pay the Miz.
Right. But this thing, Mizanin was a reality star in the mid-aughts. Nobody gave a shit about him when his wrestling career was starting. Right? No. Everything he's earned since then is from WWE. I hate giving them credit for it, but it's true. Real world fame fades fast. Like, real fast. So I mean, like, that stuff was gone long ago. But excuse me, he knew how to do that. So if you give Grayson Waller that opportunity, why? He's younger, he's a better athlete, a better worker, not by much, but he's a better worker. What's the difference between the guys? Like, and if I'm working for Endeavor, these are the questions I'm asking, or excuse me, TKO, these are the questions I'm asking, and I think you have to seriously consider them right now. Same with like your Bronson Reeds, like that Triple H Infinity Gauntlet bullshit. Like that, they're going to start turning into dust. That's going to be more apropos than people think.
Yeah, Thor is about to be defeated, I think. Not Thor. What the hell? What the hell's his name?
Thanos.
I called him
Jesus
Thor.
Christ, Mike.
Dude. Yeah. Hey, I hope Dave's not watching this from Superhero Speak. My apologies.
I can guarantee you he is not.
Thank goodness, because he is our host here on our StreamYard.
Did I ever tell you about the time we had Madison Rain on our Superhero Speak show?
No, I did not know that you had her on the show.
Yeah, Madison Rain and Josh Matthews. Josh didn't say anything, but they were pushing a Kickstarter and it was failing miserably. So we brought her on, and she's Madison Rain. Like, she's on a comic book podcast, and she didn't really write the comic. Like, it was her idea, and like it felt like Josh was really kind of pushing things. So she didn't kind of know how to talk about comics. So this show was dying, and I'm like, So let's talk about the beautiful people. And then she
Yeah.
was like, boom, like she was on. And we talked about wrestling for like 45 minutes. And it turned into a pretty good interview. And Dave was like trying to steer it back into comics. And I was like fighting him out. I'm like, no, Dave, she clearly doesn't want to talk about comics, including her own
Yeah.
Kickstarter. And then I had a come to Jesus meeting with them about, because they were like, do you want to run our Kickstarter? And I was like, no, I do not. But here's what you need to do. And then they never ran it. So smart. But yeah, so that was a fun little anecdote about Madison Rain. She's nice, by the way. She's really nice.
She seems like a nice person.
Yeah, she was really
Impact
nice.
1000 talk later, by the way. We will get into some Impact 1000 talk.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So I guess my message to Tony Khan is buyer beware on some of these cuts. Don't feel like you have to sign everybody. I think a couple of the guys that they signed that got cut have not quite panned out, and he quickly found out that WWE might have been right on those guys, and now because he doesn't want to fire anybody unless they threaten to beat his ass, he's just gonna have to pay them the length of their contract. So
did they release?
I'd be careful there.
Whatever happened with Parker Boudreaux? Did they release him, or is he
our guy from one of our group chats said that he was getting released, and then he didn't, but the tattooed face baseball player guy, he didn't get released. He was on a short deal. Parker Boudreaux, as far as I know, is still there. But if he's on Ring of Honor, he might as well not be there, because I do not know. I've never watched it. So
he is, in fact, not on Ring of Honor. Hey, our buddy DJ Convoy popped by. Just a quick run and tell you, I love you. Thanks, man. Appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks, DJ Convoy. We love you, buddy. Thank you. Appreciate that.
It's a good man. He moderates the Wrestling Observer live chat. There's a human being that has the patience of a saint.
He's a glutton for punishment, that guy.
Truly is an admirable human being. I could not do that.
So I don't know. I don't know who's going to get fired or what. And this kind of feels gross to even fantasy book it, but I don't have a ton of class. So I did throw out some names there.
Fair.
But yeah. Hey, let's get into Andrew Zarian of the Matt Men podcast. I actually did a podcast with him and Garrett one time called We're Live, Pal. He was on his show today, and he actually had like a good little scoop ski here. I'm trying this for the first time, by the way. I'm doing a share screen, and I'm gonna play a video. And if you can hear me in the chat, sound off. But here we go. This is what Matt Men, Andrew Zarian from Matt Men, said on his podcast today about AEW heading to HBO Max.
I think next year is going to be very interesting for them, considering the rights deal is going to be done soon. Max, I feel confident to say Max is going to be their home for AEW. I also feel confident to say that they're going to run 12 pay-per-views a year.
Interesting predictions.
Not a prediction, my friend.
Oh, no?
I feel confident to say it.
Okay.
Feel very confident to say it.
Andrew Z gets the scoops.
Yeah. So Andrew Zarian, he dropped 2 scoops on there, like Raisin Bran, 2 scoops. So yeah, sorry. So he dropped 2 of them there. The first one, he's pretty confident that AEW is going to Max, right? And he also said that he's pretty confident that AEW is moving to 12 pay-per-views. I think he might be right about that, considering they have ran one May, June, July, August, September, and now we got one in October. There's one coming up in November, Full Gear. They have not made an announcement for a December one, but I think an announcement could be imminent. And it looks like we might be getting those on Max. And if they're on Max, count me in. That might be a little bit of an extra fee, and I'm willing to do that. I'm cool.
That's what that was the question I asked when Andrew, because Andrew tweeted this as well. Andrew, I don't know the guy.
Yeah.
I asked, I said, so is this going to be, because remember, UFC and ESPN have this deal too, but it's pay-per-views. So I wanted to know, I'm like, so is the plan to just, have that be part of the show, or is this going to be a separate feed? Bix liked my tweet. He didn't respond, because I don't think he has an answer to that yet. I have thoughts on this. If that is the plan, that's fine. A lot of people are like, oh, it's just too much content. Well, don't watch.
Yeah.
I don't watch Rampage. Rampage is not a night. I don't care. Like, it's very simple. Watch what you don't want. Like, it's that easy. So here's what I'm wondering. If that is the case, this is a good thing for them, right?
Yeah.
Not just in the fact they're probably going to get a lot of money, but I think it's going to now. What I've come to learn is that wrestling fans have been programmed by 30 plus years of wrestling television, where if we are not constantly promoting the next big show, people feel lost. And we really saw that in the build to All In. Even though every single major match that was on that show was part of the show going into the announcements, it bothered everybody that they weren't announced, right?
Mhm.
MJF Adam Cole was the focus of the show throughout the summer, but we never said that was the match until a couple weeks out. So I think that wrestling fans need that security blanket of knowing this is where this is headed. And I think Tony kind of can lose himself in the weeds a little bit with his booking. So I think having a show a month will help, because you think about it, we had that with Dynamite. Like, that's pretty much what they had. We had like the 4 major pay-per-views, and then you'd have your major Rampages major Dynamites every month that you'd build toward. So what's the difference? And if there's not, believe me, if there's not an additional fee on this, if this just comes as part of my Max membership, I got no problem. I was going to watch these shows anyway. I'm fine with it.
Yeah. And I think Dobby the Brain Heenan, Patreon subscriber, shout out my brother. He asked the question, do you guys think it'll be more like WWE with Peacock or UFC with ESPN? Pay-per-view costs are significantly different. Yeah, that's a great question. Obviously, I don't know, so I'd just be guessing. My guess is I think that Tony is a huge fan of the UFC model with ESPN. And from what people have been saying and rumors that are out there is that the Bleacher Report app would be swallowed by Max essentially, and you would it would be like Bleacher Report Sports or a Bleacher Report hub on Max, and then you would be ordering it through there. My guess is they will still be pay-per-views. My hope is it will be factored into the Max cost, even if Max is going to cost a little bit more each month. I would be cool with that. I mean, it'd probably get us up to like $15, $16 at that point. But that's what I would like, because my wife's not going to let me cut Max, because that's where Fixer Upper is at, and that's where all those shows are at. And then I can get AEW, and I can get my DC stuff that I like.
Wow, I can't believe you said that, not me. I am of the opinion that if it's only $15, $16 a month for those pay-per-views, fine. If it's 50 plus your Max subscription, this is where I think it might not work, because I don't think the company is hot enough to make this work. Like, I don't think that would be, I don't think that is a good move for them. And WWE, and like it or not, WWE has set a trend in the marketplace that if you're on streaming, you're essentially free. Now, WWE or AEW has done really good with their pay-per-views, but I don't know if 12 of them is the move. Now, that being said, everyone said, this is the thing. When WWE went to what saved the company, right? After Bret Hart left, actually, like when Bret Hart was going to leave, the company was going broke. They were taking the water machines out of the building. What saved the company was going to full price 12 pay-per-views a year. Saved the company.
Yeah.
Right. Because more people bought, like not as many people bought, but it was something like 70% of the regular buyers were buying. So you lost some, but you made up for it when those people that were buying 12 pay-per-views full price a year. That, you know what I'm saying? Like the math, it's math.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping they get a big enough bag, as they say, where we don't have to pay $50 a month for 12 pay-per-views, because that would hurt. I'm not doing that.
That would be nice. I mean, if it just depends, like, is Max willing to overspend and buy the pay-per-view outright and then just add it as part of their subscription service, or do what ESPN Plus is doing and they bought it outright, but to get their money back, and this was smart by them, they are charging $70 per pay-per-view, and ESPN and UFC is still selling a ton of, like, they're the biggest monster on pay-per-view right now. And it never stopped, despite the fact that they went to ESPN, the ESPN Plus model. So I think AEW is not UFC though. UFC is hot. You know what I mean? No matter which fighters come and go, no matter who's on top, they're selling out everywhere. And the pay-per-views are doing really big business. And I'm talking like their bottom end pay-per-views are still doing well above what AEW does on their top end. You know what I mean? It's just a different monster. So I think they'd have to be realistic with themselves. But, you know, I think I could see Khan kind of wanting to go for the money, or not just Khan, but Max, right? You know what I mean?
Let me play devil's advocate with you.
Okay.
I will maintain, and there are people in our old podcast network that will fight me on this, but I'm right. WWE's ascension in popularity came in unison with the Peacock deal.
100%.
And I will maintain, and Brandon Thurston agrees, that having those pay-per-views accessible for not extra charge has given a wider audience their best shows.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that Tony Khan is smart enough to realize that and not just go for the money. Because I'm going to tell you, I'm going to throw another fact at you. That Variety Culture Crave, it's a great Twitter follow or X follow, whatever, for anyone that likes nerd news and stuff like that. Did you know that Max, I want to make sure I read this correctly. Max has the highest cancellation rate of any streaming platform at 26.9%.
Wow.
So they need sports
Yes.
to
Yeah.
keep people from canceling. I don't think, maybe down the road you can charge. I think charging right now would not help you. Charging exorbitant. If it's like an extra $5 a month, I'm in. Like that's a no-brainer. If you're asking me to pay $50 a month, even $20 a month for an extra pay-per-view, I'm not in. Like, I don't think it's going to work. But these two companies need something, and I think Tony having his platform, his shows on a big platform that does even a 26%, even a 27%, cancellation rate. Max still is one of the biggest streaming networks outside of Disney.
Yeah, it's Disney, Max, and Peacock. They're like all, and Netflix, of course. They're all kind of like in the same stratosphere. And I think Paramount Plus would be a kind of like a step below those guys. So earlier this year, in July, AEW did a record gate, or so we thought, at Wembley Stadium for All In. So according to AEW, they put it out that AEW sold 81,035 tickets. Now that is under independent audit. So the real number is going to come out. Tony Khan has objected that to an independent audit, and that is ballsy, by the way. And I think that's very cool of him to do, and I think he deserves respect. Brandon Thurston did some investigation, and he got the turnstile report. So the number of people that actually entered through the turnstiles, right? And he got it, and it was 72,265. This would be fans in attendance for All In. So that would not be the record, the attendance record, nor did they ever claim they had the attendance record. They just claimed they had the tickets sold record. But there was a claim out there that they had the attendance record. But that's actually 8,500 short of the WrestleMania 32 record of 80,079. I think people are trying to downplay this and say that it wasn't as big a deal as it was. 72,000 people in attendance is a pretty damn big deal.
Did you hear Dave talk about this?
He said that, like, I heard something about there was like a 10%, drop rate, essentially, like,
average,
and that's a pretty standard thing. Yeah,
across the board. WWE has the lowest rate at 9. Yeah. Right. So upon this is major sports too. Upon average, major sports teams will, because he said because of the scalper market. Right. There's so many tickets sell early. Scalpers buy so many of them, and then it's on average 10% lower. So this would be the same thing for any WrestleMania event, which again, those numbers are worked anyway. So I think that a lot of people are going to get themselves worked into knots over this number, which is fine. Tony got his account, and then, like Sam Alvarez talked about, he goes, I didn't count. I didn't go through the turnstile, right? Because he was there as media.
Yeah, so, well, media shouldn't count.
Media shouldn't count, but that's correct. But so that's the thing. It was like, there's a lot of people in the building. Tony said 90, maybe he said around 90, probably wasn't around 90. But I believe 85,000 tickets are sold. He put his money where his mouth is and let it be an independent audit. If they never said anything more than this is what we sold. Yeah,
he said 81,035 tickets sold. Did you see that Will Ospreay got a damn tattoo of that number?
Will Ospreay, man.
Dude, how could you not love that guy? Like he's a bumbling idiot, and I love him so much.
Oh, I adore. He reminds me of so many wrestlers I've coached over the years. Just lovable dumb jocks. I think he's great. It's so funny how the UK media, like, I guess, remember those promos on Dynamite that everybody's like, "Oh, these are really good," and the UK media guys are like, "This is fucking awful," and
they've hated him for a long time.
I know there's a real thing there, but I think Will's great. I think he's a meathead. I think he's going to get paid. Hopefully.
Yeah.
Hopefully somebody pays
hopefully
him.
he gets paid a ton of money. So anybody saying that that was still not a success, even though, just because they don't have the attendance record, as of right now, until it's proven otherwise, they have the tickets sold record. Because WWE works their numbers, and I don't know exactly how many tickets were actually sold for WrestleMania 32. One would assume that it's higher than 80,079 of the turnstile count of the people in the building, but we just don't have that number yet. And those could be comps and all that stuff. But yeah, the scalper market, that's a lot of people weren't able to offload tickets, and so the seats didn't get filled. I mean, that's not that big of a deal.
No, there's a ton of people in the audience, and like WWE counts like the janitorial staff. They count the guys working. They count the people in the cameras. They count the people selling hot dogs. Like they're counting, like the people outside, like parking cars. Like and it's a work number. It's what it is.
Yeah. So WWE uses the number that they use in the FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration. I was part of an exercise for an aircraft crash, and the number they call is they said we had 235 SOBs, and I was just like, what? And they go, and I was like, and I elbowed my flight commander. I was like, what's he saying? SOBs? I was like, am I the only one think that's hilarious? And he goes, it means souls on board. I was like, oh, okay. So they're talking pilots.
It's way funnier the other way.
Flight attendants. And I was just like, and then I got back to my flight. I was like, yep. And I was briefing them on the scenario, this aircraft crash. Yeah, we had 235 sons of bitches on board, and everybody started busting out laughing. My boss just looked at me. He goes like, "You couldn't resist, could you?" I was like, "No, sorry. SOB stands for souls on board. That's a
souls on board."
Yeah. So WWE uses that. So if they consider pets as souls, all the workers there, the media members.
WrestleMania 3, Frankie the Parrot was there. That's a body. That's a body. Matilda. She counted. Yeah.
Matilda better damn count. She's a legend. Comment from the chat. This comes from Christopher Carter. He said, got here a bit late, but as Lanza said, our boss Joe Lanza, the very handsome and not bald guys, he does not use Nugenics, and he is not bald, despite what that AEW sign said. Joe Lanza said, got here a bit late. As Lanza said, I tend to agree, though, that I'm not sure y'all do, as I just arrived. This is just another number to deal with and all the noise. Yeah. That's all it is. It was just, I knew people would want to hear us talk about it, so I thought I'd bring it up. I think the bigger story is, the bigger story is AEW's domestic ticket sales. Those are like, I typically am like kind of an AEW defender when it comes to this area, but it's scary. Like they had for this week's Dynamite in Cincinnati at 2,100. And then Grand Slam, as of right now, or actually as of this morning, my cousin Stat Nerd Joe texted me this morning, said around 6,200 are out. They're 6,200, and they're currently offering buy one, get one free deals. And it was about half of what they did last year. So last year they had a little over 12,000 and well under the 20,000 from 2021. So, man, that is tough. And he sent me he sent me the, I think Brandon Thurston had like an Excel sheet. He sent me the Excel sheet, and they're just from last year to this year, they're just way down everywhere in ticket sales domestically.
Yeah, that's the issue too. You're going to see like the promotion isn't hot right now. Talking with a buddy of ours who's been saying this is going to happen for a while. And he triggered this all back to stuff that started going wrong in early 2022, and it's coming to roost now. And I think Tony's issue is he believes in these traditions and he wants to run these venues multiple times in a row. And that's his ego talking. Like WrestleMania 3 was that 93,000 work number. WrestleMania's 4 and 5 were in Trump Plaza. They probably could have gotten a lot, but I mean, like, they didn't try to run something big the next year. They did it 6, and then 7 they tried and it didn't go good. So I mean, this happens, right? Like,
well, hold JD, hold on. 7, they were gonna run the LA Coliseum, but Sergeant Slaughter had so much heat It was just way too dangerous for them to run the arena because he was such a good heel. That's the story.
Yeah, just so happened that it was the exact 14,000 that fit just fine in the LA college in the LA sports arena.
Sports arena, yeah. That Roddy
so-
Piper used to run in 10 years prior to that, but yeah.
He was at the he was at the Olympic Auditorium. That's a different
The
arena,
Olympic,
sir.
that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
I think that's what the Lakers play at the Forum. I forget who plays sports arena. Anyway, this happens. They're down. And people have been talking about the product and they've been unhappy with it for a bit now, right? And the creation of Collision didn't help. Like, they had a lot of shit thrown on their plate this year. Some of it was self-imposed, some of it was WB, and it's coming home to roost now because product. I think the booking coming out of the all weekends has been better and more focused. But again, it's like the stuff you do now. I think Jim Cornette says too. The stuff you do now well will show up on your ticket sales 4 to 5 months down the line. Right. Problem with Dynamite is when they release when the company is hot, like WWE right now, they're hot. They can open up tickets and you don't got to announce shit. You're just gonna sell them. When the AEW had that for a long time too. I remember I couldn't get tickets to All Out 2019 because you couldn't touch them. When you're hot, you don't need nothing. When you're cold, you need everything. Nothing works. And I think that's the problem right now is the program is super cold. And even though it's a little bit better now, they're paying for the stuff that people were unhappy about around Double or Nothing time. Right?
Yeah.
That's how these things work. And it's going to take months to fix it. This is why I think that max deal is imperative because you're not going to get those numbers up. I think they need to stop running the NBA arenas and stop listening to these WWE guys. Go back to running the smaller college arenas. Start doing some freaking boots on the ground. Jeff Jarrett, I love the guy, but he's in charge of live events, and all of a sudden our live events division has been going down this year. So I mean, maybe your focus should not be on playing with Leatherface. Like, it's time to ask some seriously hard questions right now. Like, this is the problem with hiring people who come from the other place is they want you to run things. Well, this is how we did it in WWE. And I don't think Tony Khan put the foot down and said, motherfucker, this isn't WWE. Can't do it this way.
You know, and early on in the history of AEW, when they were running these college arenas are not small, by the way. You can still get, quite a few thousand people in there.
Yeah. The one in Cincinnati is a lot smaller than the NBA.
They're not. Yeah, they're not NBA, but they're still pretty decent sized arena. The cool thing about it is that it was always felt like a party like atmosphere.
Yes.
In those smaller arenas, like you felt like you were a part of something that was growing, and it's now they got to this big level and they're working these big arenas. Now the novelties kind of wore off and they're kind of coming back. I think early on they probably should have ran bigger arenas. But now they it seems like they need to go back down to those smaller ones, those 5,000-6,000 seat arenas.
To be fair, this is the only week I thought that you could tell the arena was small. Like, because usually because it used to be they would run these big arenas and you couldn't tell. Now they've got these small arenas. They're not full. And the crowd is hot. They're shooting it really well. It's like, I feel like Mastery gets a lot of crap because I think he makes some bad decisions production wise, but he's done a much better job than Keith Mitchell of highlighting the crowd, right?
Yeah.
The big crowds look huge. The small crowds don't look so bad. So I think production wise, you're doing a good job. This was the first week I think we had a super cold, small crowd, but if you make it feel cool, I think they need to change. I think they need to change a lot of what they think about where they should host some of these Dynamites. Like, this program wants to emulate WCW in a lot of ways. When Nitro was on the come up, they were doing interesting things with their events. That's a lot of Zane Braslov. Remember, not all of it worked. Not just Club La Vila. Remember, they ran Daytona Beach. The beach, actually. They ran Club La Vila is a good one. They had that other one too that I can't remember the name. They ran in two different places. The Mall of America. They did interesting things that made the show look different. Part of the problem I think AEW has right now is you got so many people who are Vince trained is they're trying to make this program Vince trained, and you have to stop that. Like, at this point right now, you have to go back to grassroots. You have to start knocking on doors. You have to get Dave. You didn't read the Observer yet this week, but Dave wrote a big long piece on. It felt like the death of AEW, right? And I'm sure I did read
the ticket sales portion of it. So I read the top two stories, the TKO story and the AEW ticket sales story. But it seemed like it was pretty grim. And as we covered, if you guys go to patreon.com/the Mike and JD show and you take a listen to our WCW 2001. I'm not saying that AEW is there. I'm not comparing them to WCW 2001. I'm not doing that. But what I'm saying is that Dave made some predictions early on in the year, and then we went week by week reading the observers, essentially covering the fall of WCW in 2001 to the WCW invasion and to where it ultimately failed. He predicted what was going to happen, or he warned, if you do this, this is what will happen, and everything he predicted ended up coming out right. Like, say what you want about the guys, that you don't like his star ratings, blah blah blah. There's guys out there like Sean Ross Sapp and other guys that might be out scooping him now. But his knowledge of how the business operates and works, I think, is second to none when it comes to the journalism field. And when he's talking about warning signs, I think promoters should heed his warnings and actually read what he's saying and make the necessary changes, because WWE didn't do that, and they had a colossal failure on their hands in 2001.
Dave had an interesting tweet today. I'm trying to find it.
I can pull it. Go ahead.
I'm on his Twitter. It was this afternoon. It was like, you know, I hate reading it, but I was all waste time on trying to find this. I hated reading it because I do like this promotion. I do think we need this promotion to work. The difference between WCW right now is the ratings are much better. WCW wasn't winning the night when they were down.
Yeah.
Like, they weren't selling the type of pay-per-views. Like, AEW is still profitable. Like, people go, hey, they made a profit. Well, you don't know what they make in profits. They just had 2 of their biggest weeks in a row, and there is a come down off that. Because WWE had them the same, right, when they came out of Wembley too. So it's almost like, man, maybe you shouldn't run Wembley. It's kind of bad luck afterwards. You don't, searching through Dave Meltzer's Twitter is god awful, because like now you got to read through him talking shit to all these nerds for fucking hours.
Yeah, I was saying, if you find the tweet, you send it to me, I can pull it up on the screen. But
okay, waste time for me for a second, Mike.
Yeah.
I got to find this.
Yeah, well, it really is scary, the ticket sales thing. And I'm like, at this point, I'm kind of racking my brain. Is like, what could they possibly do to get these numbers back up? They could run smaller venues and then make the crowd seem more hot. I think that would be appropriate. And then get that party-like atmosphere that we had in the original days. I think that would be cool. I think one of their band-aids is to go find new and more talent, and big name talent. And I think one of the things that they're probably trying to do, and they might successfully do, is bring in Edge. I don't know that Edge is the answer. And I'm not one of those guys that is like an Edge hater or that doesn't respect. I like Edge. I happen to be a fan of Edge, and he's a real famous guy. I think you come in for a temporary bump and then you're going to go right back down to where you were before, maybe even less, right? Because Edge, again, is a temporary Band-Aid. I think you need young, fresh, hip, cool, new talent that can go out there and get after it. And I think after watching Dynamite yet again this week, I thought the guy that came across as the biggest star to me in the company outside of MJF is Swerve Strickland.
Mm-hmm.
I
agree.
just happened to find him so compelling. He's so tremendous. And I actually sent a text to JD and John Muse earlier this week, and with no context, I said, hey, I respect both of you guys, but if either one of you ever says a single bad thing about Prince Nana and his dance, I'm leaving the chat, because I love that brother, man. He is so cool. He's so funny. He's kind of a bumbling idiot. He's an 80s style heel manager, like Jimmy a number 2.
Hart.
He's Jimmy Hart. Yeah. And I think he's so great. Him dancing while Cage was beating down Adam Page, and then all of a sudden getting his medicine from the Young Bucks, I thought it was tremendous. Like, the whole bit is great.
I can't find this thing I'm looking for. Dave basically
don't worry about it.
Dave basically kind of tweets something like it says like, I got really good feedback on the AEW thing I wrote from the right people.
Yeah.
Which led me to believe that maybe some important people read what Dave said and took it to heart. So, no, back to Nana. Prince Nana is, like I said, he's Jimmy Hart. If Don Callis is trying to be the new Bobby Heenan, a little more serious than Heenan ever was, to be quite frank. But Nana is absolutely Jimmy Hart. And he's great. He was great in Ring of Honor 15, 20 years ago. Like,
yeah. So
did you find
this is from Dave Meltzer. I'm sharing the screen now. So I should mention the article on AEW. Promotional wars and attendance has been heavily praised to me this morning from those who have read it. Yeah, from those who have read it. So that's what he was saying. Yeah.
That's coded.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
There's
certain things that Dave writes in the Observer, and it's like it's an audience of one. It's he's writing it to get a person's attention, because he clearly sees that there's a storm coming and
He's
they may
not-
not be able to avoid it.
And that's not just to Tony. We saw this in our Patreon shows. He did that to Vince too. Like you're
Yeah.
absolutely. This is what makes Dave a different writer than a traditional, more of a traditional journalist. Is Dave will speak directly, and Dave's got this very like colloquial writing style where he's very he's not very polished. You know, and I think by his own admission he isn't. And he's like it's like he's having a conversation. Like his writing is very conversational, and it's very much like he's directly saying this to someone. And it really felt like this was Dave. It felt like this was Dave talking to Tony Khan today. It's really what it felt like. Circling back around, Prince Nana is great. Swerve is cool. The difference between WCW2 is I think that they're trying to make a guy, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
we're
they are.
trying to. Oh, hey, John Muse is in the chat. Just realized that.
Oh yeah.
Our buddy.
Yeah, they're definitely trying to make, like, you can actively see Swerve being elevated at this point, and I think he's nailing it. And you know who else is being elevated? And I feel like you and I deserve our flowers for this one. And I'm sure Io, if Io's still in the chat, Io can back us up. He was a Brace for Impact listener for a long time. We were singing the praises of one W. Morrissey.
Yes.
And you know what? We shit on the signing when AEW brought him in. We shit on the name. And that brother came in, he worked his tail off, and he got himself over. He had a 1-year run at Impact, and he completely transformed himself, so much so that Tony Khan, who very likely would have not even given him a chance the year prior, when he was coming out of like rehab and all that stuff, he proved himself in Impact. He got on Tony Khan's radar. They brought him in, and Scott Edwards is there too, because I was telling him.
Scotty
They brought him in, and you know what? He kicked ass this week with John Moxley. They had a hell of a match, and people are starting to take notice of what we took notice of on our show, Brace for Impact, for over a year, about how great W. Morrissey is, and I'm really glad that people are starting to take notice.
Morrissey was a highlight in Impact. The whole time he was there, he elevated his work game. He elevated his promos. I remember I went to an NXT show and my buddy broke him when he was Big Cass. He was really upset and bothered by some heckling. That dude today would eat him alive, man. I am so proud of how far this dude has come. And I like the swerve. I like the Starks and Bill thing. Like it's got a HBK Diesel vibe to it. Right?
Yeah.
Like I think there's something there, and they're feuding with Danielson and Moxley, so they're in big spots, right? I think it's working. Like they're trying. They got their backing. Starks was a guy like he got over in like the Austin way a little bit, right? With getting beat by the Legend is what I mean.
Yeah.
But not submitting. I think they're going all in on Swerve. Well, it's gonna be a big show this week at coming up at Wrestle Dream. If Swerve beats Hangman, I hope Tony Khan does not get tempted by these, because you're gonna have all these elite twerps, right? These idiots, these sycophants that cry every time the elite lose. Hangman can lose, and they need a heel. They need a super hot heel. Let it be Swerve. Swerve is doing the work of his career right now. I think like we did not make Orange. We had the chance to make Orange Cassidy, right? They're going to regret it too. Lanza talked about something on the flagship today that I heard, and I had the same conversation with, I think, the same guy who said we could have gotten to that AEW NXT showdown match. It would have culminated with Orange Cassidy's 1-year reign as the champion. You could have built something big to that, but they didn't. They held back on Orange, and that was a mistake. Do not make this mistake with Swerve Strickland. Do not listen to the I almost named
elitists.
There you go.
Yeah, don't listen to the elitists. Yeah. Don't listen to those guys. Hangman is going to be fine. I know we're trying to build Hangman back up, but Swerve has lost in every major feud that he's had. He needs this one, and he needs to be elevated to an eventual MJF title match. He needs to have a showdown with MJF. Yeah, and it will, because
it will draw. Swerve's cool, right?
Yeah,
Swerve is cool. Max is in this weird spot right now where fans really like him, and like I think we've moved past the phase of this is feeling disingenuous to this is just the status quo, right?
Yeah,
I think this evolved. Like it's over. I don't know if it's drawing, but the bloodline didn't draw until it did, right? Yeah. The bloodline was not a huge draw for the WWE until it just they stuck with it. And I think this MJF Cole thing will eventually help lead to sales because it's over. It is over. But they need a villain, man. They need that, and that's what Swerve is. Swerve's a fucking movie star villain, right? He's a Bond villain at this point. Someone told me, my buddy said he's Nino Brown from New Jack City, that Wesley Snipes character.
Wesley
and I'm
Snipes,
like,
yes.
That's exactly what he is in this role.
Yeah.
Go all in with Swerve.
All right, guys, we're coming up on it. So I got a couple topics I want to hit, and then we're going to head over to overtime on Patreon. So real quick, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Head over to YouTube and look for the Mike and JD Show. We've got tons of clips there and exclusive content. Also head to Patreon. Go to patreon.com/the Mike and JD Show. And we got exclusive shows. We got Overtime with Mike and JD, Brace for Impact, and the JD Oliva Project, plus our archives. JD also has been writing some more. He actually published an article earlier this week for Voices of Wrestling, but if you're a Patreon subscriber, you got that before everybody else did. JD put all his hard work and effort into beefing up our Patreon. So please check that out. Go to patreon.com/the Mike and JD Show. So last three topics. I want to talk about Jade Cargill. Appears to be headed towards free agency, and she is rumored to be heading to WWE. Some people are saying she is, some people are saying she isn't. I know that Raj Giri was saying he doesn't think so. Sean Ross Sapp thinks he is. I think she is. I think not only is she, I think she should. I think she's perfect for WWE.
I think if you're not going to go all in on making Jade the face of the division, it's time for her to go.
Yeah.
Because the work rate of what the AEW fan wants is not there, right? My biggest issue with all this is you protected her for a year, right? A year plus. You built and built and built and built, and then you're not going to get really anything out of that. Like, I know she put over Stat tonight, which is good. You got to make Statlander, but I think that on Rampage. But again, it's like if she's leaving, do you want to give her a bigger spotlight?
No, but it'd be nice to give Statlander the bigger spotlight. But I think they did kind of a good send off tonight. Hold on, Scott Edwards is in the chat right now.
Oh, Bremen.
And he said, I don't know. Yeah, you didn't. We're doing the J Talk right now, but he said he just finished her match with Chris, and it was the best of her career, in my opinion. So I'm actually looking forward to watching that. I'll have to check it out tomorrow morning.
Yeah,
but if you put her on Dynamite, and like 300 or 400 more thousand people see her on TV, and then she goes to Raw, it's not going to change anything. It's not going to hurt her, like, do anything crazy. You know what I mean? Like, it could. I think you're not really giving Jade the spotlight. You're giving Statlander the spotlight of getting her that big win in front of a lot more people. That's all I'm saying. But look, it happened on Rampage, and I think they actually gave her a little bit of a send off too. Like, they did kind of a nice thing for her. So.
Here's the thing: it sounds like it came down to WWE made this tremendous offer, which is funny because she's like, "Oh, I love AEW," and she might. It sounds from what Dave was saying, Tony wouldn't match the offer. To that, I say, good move, Tony Khan.
Yeah.
Good move, because like at some point you have to say, "Hey, man, we can't spend that kind of money." And and maybe that this makes me a bad person. I think there's a lot of star potential in Jade Cargill. I don't think AEW is the place to maximize it. And I say that as an AEW fan. I think she could do better in WWE. I think she could be protected by some of their workers a little bit better. I think she can do the things that she wants to do. And then I think that frees up some money from Tony, right? Because you are going to want to spend smarter, quite frankly. I'm glad that he didn't feel the need to outbid them in this case, because I don't think it'd have been a great. Now, again, could she be a big star? Absolutely. Do I think AEW is the right vehicle for her to become that star? I do not.
AEW is for the dorks, right?
Yeah.
And they're for us, right? Hardcore fans. And Jade appeals to celebrity wrestling fans. And I think that she would be perfect fit in WWE. And our buddy Io, Patreon subscriber, by the way, Io, said, in y'all opinion, should Jade go to NXT first? Absolutely fucking not. I think she's going to command a high salary. I think you put her right in there with the big stars, and you put her on the house shows, and that's how she's going to get better. Because you're not going to ask her to be like a top-notch work rate wrestler. You don't have to be that. You don't have to be that in WWE. You don't have to do slap the thigh, kick out, no sell, no sell, kick out. You don't have to do that in WWE. You can do lock up, chin lock. You know what I mean? Like, it's like they have a different tempo up there. They have those type of AEW style wrestlers in WWE. They're just slowed down quite a bit more, right? She can just be more of a character actor in WWE. Plus, she wants to do movies. She wants to do reality shows. I think WWE is going to be a better platform for her to leverage her position in the entertainment space. I think it's a perfect move for her. Next topic, The Rock claims he was close to a deal to headline WrestleMania against Roman Reigns earlier this year. That rumor was out there. That's the reason why. That's the reason why I planned the trip to Disneyland and to get my WrestleMania tickets for my birthday. And the son of a bitch never came. And now he said it was almost pretty much locked in, but they couldn't get a deal together. They couldn't get the right creative. But now he seems to be open to it. And oh, weird, there's currently a actor strike going on in Hollywood. I wonder why he's more available now. So weird.
You know, it's funny too, because like I know there's I laughed because people are like, oh, Cody Rhodes gonna go right back down. And that's exactly what will happen, by the way, if The Rock sticks around. And it should. It's just it entertains me. It entertains me so great that the guy who stood in front of us at the original All In and talked about no one company owns pro wrestling. We own pro wrestling. And then he's calling his father. And then he says about his father's on the Sports Entertainment Hall of Fame or Mount Rushmore. He is such a politician. He's such a phony son of a bitch that I'm entertained greatly that this finish the story thing would be bucked another year to the point where, and he's colder now too than he was a year ago. Right. And I just find that to be remarkably entertaining because now a real big star is coming back. Like Cody, you have sure, you know, what you're doing is cute, but you know, now John Cena and The Rock are back. So, you know,
did you see the pop that The Rock got?
Oh, surprise Rock pop too. No, I didn't see it.
Yeah.
I got text from you and Muse.
The clip is on Twitter. I have not watched SmackDown, but bro, it was like being a kid again, watching The Rock come out. And you know, when I was a teenager, the guy is just tremendously over. And I watched him on Pat McAfee today. It was a great interview. I like Pat's show, but
I got a controversial take for you right now, man.
Yeah,
The Rock needs WWE right now.
He does. He's had some misses lately, although. It might have missed at the box office, but I'll fight anybody. I liked Black Adam. I don't care. I thought that was a good movie. I really enjoyed it. I watched it on Max, had my popcorn, had my Coke Z, and I shut my brain off, and I enjoyed it. I liked that movie. I don't care what anybody says. I know Black Adam is an ancillary character and yada. I don't give a fuck. I liked the movie. It was fun, and it was stupid.
It was stupid. I love Black Adam character. I was super excited when The Rock was going to play him in like 2006, 2007. Black Adam was the coolest character in DC Comics. That movie was it didn't suck, but it wasn't very good, and it didn't make a lot of money. And The Rock, the power shift of the balance of power of the DC universe has changed.
Whew,
yes, it has.
Yeah, just not
welcome,
to you, buddy.
Welcome, James Gunn.
Yeah, James Gunn is a hero right now.
He needs this. I think this big run with The Rock is kind of, or with Roman, excuse me, could be a big thing for him. And you know,
yeah,
I don't know if you're Vince or you know, R.A. Emanuel, I guess, and Nick Khan, do you? The goal is to have every UFC fan be a WWE fan and every WWE fan be a UFC fan.
You see Dana shit all over him for that.
Dana shit all over it. I mean,
that was so great.
Dana's right. I mean, I know we both know a ton of MMA fans who will never watch professional wrestling, and vice versa. So it's hilarious. But anyways, I think that they need this. I really do. I think The Rock could really use some time around the people who truly admire him, right? And this could be big. But now, if you're the question, if you're them, do you wait till April and do WrestleMania?
Yeah. I think you do wait till I think you do it at WrestleMania. It's the biggest thing. But I think what you do is you fear that the writer strike is coming. So
it's not the writer's strike. It's the SAG strike.
The SAG strike. I think eventually that's going to come to a close, and then the movies that he's working on are gonna come back. So I think that you have to worry about that. But here's Dana White. Here's
thoughts on Epstein. Lawrence said something to ESPN today. He said, "Where we want to get is where every UFC fan is a WWE fan, and every WWE fan is a UFC fan." Do you see similarities in the fan base, and how achievable is that goal?
Lawrence, I love you. One of the dumbest statements of all time. Yeah, I don't know why he said that.
That was great.
Say what you want about Dana, but he calls it like he sees it, and I think he is spot on, 100% right here.
Yeah.
100% right.
Yeah, but
Wouldn't surprise me if Gable Steveson made a transition from WWE to UFC, though. We don't be surprised if that happens.
I honestly, I think that might be better for him.
It would be better
Like, for
him,
real.
frankly.
Yeah. And lastly, I had the chance to watch Impact 1000 last night. I got to say right away, production, top notch. The crowd, huge. They sold the crowd out at the White Plains. I think, what do they call it? The convention center. Io will probably correct me in the chat. But I think they sold out their tickets. So they had like 600 just reserved seats, but the bigger section was general admission. So it probably had like 1,500 people there, which is a pretty damn good sized crowd for an Impact show. I really enjoyed the show. Main event was Chris Sabin versus Leo Rush. The match we were supposed to get at Slammiversary, they did an angle at Slammiversary to build to this night, where Chris Sabin, who headlined Impact number 1, also main evented Impact number 1000, and then won his 10th X Division title. And they closed the show with all the X Division, actually all the baby faces, putting them up on the shoulders, and they did that whole thing. Westchester County Center, thank you, Io, appreciate you. They opened the show with Scott D'Amore and Gail Kim talking about the history of the knockouts and how great they were. And they were like a huge part. They were very progressive and forward thinking and all that stuff. And they really, like, they were ahead of the curve in women's wrestling before WWE. Like, they were actually putting on actual really good matches in North America before WWE was. Gail Kim was a big part of that. Yep. So she's out and she gets interrupted by the Beautiful People. Beautiful People gets this big pop. They do the whole butt zoom in thing. Almost got heat with a wife. Thank God they avoided the heat there. And they still look great. And they started that.
Cam.
Yeah. So they started that, and they were going on for a little bit. And I was like, oh man, this is like Beautiful People. Still great act. Not great promos here. Like, okay, they're telling some pretty awful one-liners. And then we started getting entrance after entrance after entrance. And after like halfway through this thing, I am willing to at this point, I'm ready to plead guilty to war crimes at this point. Like, I am like, fuck, guys, come on. And then finally we get Awesome Kong coming out, and talk about the rock pop. Awesome Kong, okay, not the rock pop level, but an Impact World.
I was about to say,
dude, she got a tremendous pop, and I was there in the Westchester County Center. She got a tremendous pop, and then she cut a little bit of a promo, and then Tasha Steelz came out after that, so we still weren't done. And then finally we get the big Mickie James coming out at the very end, and then they set up a 10-woman tag match for next week. So that's going to be the main event of next week. So we got that. We got Feast or Fired. We got 4 guys getting briefcases. So one of those brothers is getting fired. We got Uemura, Chris Bay, and Moose, and Crazy Steve all got briefcases. And as of right now, I read the spoilers. I don't know who's getting fired there. I'm assuming it's Uemura, because there are rumors going around that he is heading back to New Japan.
Mike. No, he's not happy with New Japan. He's an Impact guy for life. Isn't that what we read?
We did read that, but it turns out he might be going back to New Japan. Yeah, well, there's a rumor. There's a rumor going around that he's heading back to New Japan. So,
well, it's almost like they sent him on a learning excursion to a foreign country, like New Japan has done for 30 years. Maybe.
Yeah. And he just kind of embedded himself into the country and into the culture, and just kind of became an Impact guy. And and I don't think he ever lived up to his potential on the excursion. And I think part of that is Impact's fault. But now he's heading back. What they've done. Okay. I know.
Good.
Go ahead. No, I was going to say how they're using Kevin Knight is kind of how I envisioned they would use Uemura. Kevin Knight is this underneath baby faces fighting all their top stars and losing at the very end in these great matches. Uemura is not exactly doing that. He did some of that, but he's not exactly doing that.
When is a guy in excursion ever really been like a true learning excursion ever really been pushed? Yeah. Right? It's never really happened.
Yeah.
Ever.
No, it hasn't, but I just, in my head, I envision them putting him in like positions to succeed. Not exactly pushing, giving titles, nothing like that. But anyway, I expect him more out of the excursion. Anyway, I think it's Uemura. Although a friend of mine named Lewis, who's a big Impact fan, DM'd me and said that he thought that maybe Crazy Steve will get fired, and that'll add a layer to his character. Like, hey, he gets fired, and then he has to work his way back, and he's doing this evil kind of character right now. He's a villain now. So I thought that would be cool. And then we also got the return of Team 3D. Huge pop. They were baby faces. It was Brother Ray and Brother Devon. They were the old Team 3D. It was cool to see Devon back in the ring. It was kind of scary because he did have a stroke and he legit almost died. But to see him work his way back and have his kids and his wife in the audience and stuff like that, and put the Daisy Hit Squad, my man Rohit Raji was back. They put him to a table. So it was good stuff. Stay tuned to Brace for Impact. I'm going to go segment by segment and do a breakdown of each of the segments. I'm going to talk about all the news surrounding Impact, including Josh Alexander going to New Japan in Japan and working with Okada coming up here very soon. I'm going to have all the details for that. So head to patreon.com/the Mike and JD show. Brace for Impact coming out this weekend. All right, guys. Hey, thank you for everybody in the chat. Thank you to Io, Dobby the Brain Heenan, Scott Edwards, our buddy John Muse. Thank you to everybody in the chat. If you're watching this on YouTube, please like, comment, and subscribe and tell all your friends about us. And then head over to the Mike and JD show YouTube. Go to youtube.com/the Mike and JD show. And then, of course, subscribe to our Patreon, patreon.com/the Mike and JD show. Go ahead, JD.
Check out Power Bombshells tomorrow, Sunday morning. I'm going to be guesting with Mel and Sam to finally set the terms for our Can't Buy Me Love deal.
Can you do me?
Yes.
Can you do me a favor? So that's an all-women show, right? And they're finally
I'm gonna be there.
I know.
Like,
you're gonna be there, but they're gonna give a man some shine. I want you to get a stopwatch and just clock yourself and see how much time you get on their show. Just do that. Say, hold on. Say, as they bring you in, say, hold on, Sam. I got my stopwatch ready, and hit that stopwatch, and then clock yourself.
Oh my God! Write that down. Yes.
Yep. Got to do that. Got to hit the bit. Yeah. Got to get it in. All right, guys. Jesus. Hey, we got to get to overtime. It's late where JD's at. So until next week, mahalo.
Competition's starting to get thick, it's the click, so I hope you watch your A game. Amen. No rain from the track when we unite and spit. This isn't A game, better bring your A game. Competition's starting to get thick.